And the surprise move by Adam Montgomery is prompting a lot of questions tonight. Legal analyst Patricia LaFrance is here to help answer some of those. And Patricia, what exactly does it mean to concede guilt? Why not just plead guilty?
Right. So basically what Adam Montgomery's attorneys will tell the jury is that they're really not contesting that evidence. But the thing that struck me was opening statements are not evidence. They're just laying out the case. So it would almost appear to me that Adam Montgomery would have to testify because somebody has to say, I acknowledge that these crimes I did commit. So it's an interesting twist and it's an interesting strategy by the defense. I'm guessing the hope is that perhaps what happens a lot of times in jury trials is maybe they want to split the difference. They say, well, he's conceded to this, but, hopefully the strategy is that they find him not guilty of the murder.
And that raises the question, though, how can a defendant concede to abusing a corpse and falsifying physical evidence without looking like they're also guilty of murder? Does it look like maybe he's getting ready to point the finger at someone else when it comes to who killed Harmony?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I would guess that he will point the finger at Kayla Montgomery and say she was the one who did it, and just basically use the logistics of, he is alleged to have hit her while driving, right? So how could he do that? Whereas he will most likely, again, I would anticipate he would have to testify that it was Kayla who struck her and she was distraught and he had to handle the body. So again, I don't see him getting in all of this information without him testifying. And quite frankly, what that tells me also is that he knows where her body is.
And that's a question, too, if that will come up in this trial as well. That's been a big question mark this entire time. But I do want to ask you, does this change the evidence that prosecutors are allowed to present? Can they still talk about what Montgomery allegedly did with Harmony's body if he concedes to abuse of a corpse?
Right. Well, they still have to prove their case because, again, he did not plead guilty. It's not being taken from the jury. A lot of times, if charges are dismissed or somebody pleads guilty, the jury is told you are no longer, you can no longer consider those charges. These are the charges before you now. However, again, the state, he hasn't done that. He hasn't pled guilty. So the state still has to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And again, like I said, opening statements are not evidence. So the jury will hear that. It is anticipated in the opening statements from the defense, but the state still has to prove its case. So absolutely that evidence will still come in. They may not, call as many witnesses if he's already conceding to the evidence, and they may stipulate to some of the evidence. There was a lot of physical evidence linking him to some of the scenes. So I anticipate maybe they will stipulate that, this expert would testify, for instance, about his fingerprints on a piece of ceiling. I believe it was a vent where Harmony's remains were allegedly stored. So there may be some stipulations that both parties will agree to lessen the length of the trial, because a whole month trial is a lot to ask of a jury, especially when he is now conceding a lot of the charges.
Does this change anything else? Does this change opening statements or the strategy for both legal teams?
Right. Well, state always goes first in opening statements, so they really can't say anything until the defense does. So they're going to lay out their case just like they would. What happened today was, quite frankly, I think the defense attorneys just want to make sure they cover their bases. So, that happens a lot of times when you have a defendant telling you something like this, that he's essentially giving up a lot of his rights to challenge the evidence. You want to make sure you cover your bases so he couldn't claim on appeal that his lawyers went and did this without telling him. So that's why you've had that voir dire outside the presence of the jury. So the court put it on the record. He absolutely knows what he's doing and is allowing his defense attorneys to concede those charges.
Patricia LaFrance, legal analyst, thank you for joining us. As always, great talking with you and really good to clarify some of these lingering questions here.